Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, the award-winning cannabis news podcast brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Here are your hosts, Phil Adams, Jay Britton, and Andrew McCreadies.
Is state marijuana legalization a boon for corruption? Jay's got some insights on that. Also, we've got a business update on MedMen. And the U.S. Census Bureau wants to collect marijuana tax revenue data from the states. What are they going to do with that information? I don't know. We've got that and a bunch more stuff here for you. Thanks, everybody, and welcome to a VotePro-Podcast. Glad to have you here again. Once again, it's just Jay and me.
Was that be Jay and I?
It is Jay and I. Okay. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Sorry. You're usually the grammar Nazi.
Yeah, but, I talk good.
How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, man.
I can see you on the video here. You look good. You look very handsome.
Yeah, I look fairly butch.
Yeah, very butch. They doing your own haircuts? How long you been cutting your own hair now?
Well, since about March of last year.
You do a good job.
Well, I just take the little brang thing and go brang,
Yeah, me too.
And clip it off.
Mine's falling out like a freaking cancer patient, man. I got no hair left on top here.
It's all right, man.
Pretty thin. I'm still a handsome motherfucker.
You look very distinguished.
I think so.
So what's new, man?
Not much. I got some housekeeping to take care of here. You got a second before we get started with the show here?
Mop your floor?
No, what? We've been selling mugs, right, for a year and a half or something. Right.
Yes.
And we want to thank everybody for buying mugs. It's helped us pay for producing this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to buy equipment and we got monthly fees for web hosting and server space. And
it's not a lot, but it's something.
It's something, and we got to pay Phil's exorbitant salary. So we appreciate it. So here's my thing.
I don't work for free, man.
Yeah, we got like a case left, and I'd like to I'd like to give some away. All right. Yeah. So here's my idea.
All right.
Call our message line. 240-257-2441. If you didn't write that down, you can find it in the show description. Leave us a message, give us some brilliant insights, and we will share it on the show. And then send us an email letting us know that it was you with your address, and we'll send you some swag. How's that?
Some swag?
Yeah, well, we got mugs left before we run out completely.
Hats, probably?
I think we got a couple hats. We got some bracelets. We got a bunch of crap that was to be given away at some of the events that we don't do thanks to COVID.
That we don't do.
Right. So reach out to us. Also, real quick, we have a listener who is a fairly well-known country musician in the South. I believe it's North Carolina. A guy named Pistol Hill. Pistol Hill. Yeah. So he's got a brand new song out called Ganja Row, and he wrote this week and asked if we would promote it, maybe play it on the show. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to edit the show, and at the very end, when we're done, we will play his song out. You could check it out, and if you like it, you can go to pistolhillmusic.com, iTunes, Amazon, all that stuff, and buy it. He's a good fella, and he's...
it'd be nice to get him on the show and ask him about the song and what inspired it and that sort of thing.
Well, I asked him to send that, and he said that the song is about, marijuana, he put it. But he said it's a message. It's more than just the right to get high. It's a song about ending the patient approach, meaning medical, I assume, to creating pro-cannabis laws while people rot in jail. So it's a good song. I checked it out. It's very nice. So cool. So So we'll do a little plug for him at the end of the show. There.
Right. Well, we've done that in the past. Jay, you had your song that you wrote. I wrote my song, and we played them from time to time. Yeah. We get some nice feedback from that. And so Pistol Hill, thank you for sending to us, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. Well, here's some big news, and Jay, I know you have some other state updates to get to, but I want to start with some good news, because the state updates are not all great
Not this week, right?
Not this week. Which is, a little different, because for a long time it's all been pretty good.
That's true.
But this one comes from, once again, your home state of Virginia.
Hey-o. The Cardinal State.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
the cardinal state?
That's our state bird, yeah.
Okay. Well, your governor, Governor Ralph Northam, has unveiled new legislation to legalize adult use of cannabis in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, you remember last week we talked about a state delegate, a fellow named Steve Heretic, who introduced, and it's a very similar bill, to the Virginia General Assembly. But I think this one, having come from the governor, and it's rallying a lot of support. Word on the street is that they're going to get to this, and soon.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, this comes, 8 months after Northam signed the decriminalization bill that decriminalized cannabis possession in Virginia. And what it would do, it would allow adults 21 and older to purchase and possess up to 1 ounce of cannabis. And you can cultivate up to 4 cannabis plants, including 2 mature plants.
Nice.
For personal use. Yeah, so you can grow your own. Would also impose a new 21% tax on cannabis sales.
Of course it will.
And this is on top of the state's existing
sales tax?
6% sales tax.
Oh my God.
So
Ouch.
we're looking at 27% sales tax on cannabis.
You got to love it.
And not only that, the local, localities can impose additional sales tax if they so desire, capped off at 30%. So you could pay, depending on where you live in Virginia, you could pay 30%, nearly 1/3 of the cost.
That's insane. You got to love these politicians,
goes right
man.
to the government.
And he's just drooling at all that cash.
Here's the other thing. Possession of between 1 ounce, it goes up to 1 ounce, between 1 ounce and 5 pounds of cannabis would incur civil penalties punishable by a $25 fine.
Whoa! Did you say 5 pounds?
5 pounds!
So I can have 5 pounds in my trunk and I get a $25 ticket?
$25. Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't know that. That's sweet.
So,
good Lord. So, black market much?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. That's exactly what I'm thinking. If you can have, and it's the 5 pounds is not legal, but so what?
It's a ticket. Jeez.
They give you a $50 bill, say keep the change.
Well, and the thing is that tax. The black market's going to thrive on, selling flour at that kind of rate. If you're paying 30% tax, good grief. How can you compete?
If you're moving 5 pounds at a time,
how can you
have almost no legal exposure.
That's insane.
And you undercut state sales by 30%.
Good Lord.
You're in the chips.
I think this legislation is going to move right through. I really do. I think it'll go quickly. The question then is how quickly will the regs get written and so forth. Now, I'm going to my dispensary. I've got an appointment Saturday. I have to make an appointment.
Well, okay.
So, we've got dispensary.
An appointment to your dispensary.
We just don't have a lot in there. I may have mentioned this last week. You don't have flour. So you've got gummies, you've got tincture, and you've got vape cartridges, which is cool. I mean, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Well, you're not a big flour.
No, I'm not a big smoker.
Connoisseur anyway.
I'm not a big smoker, no. So, that's good news. Go Virginia. Go Commonwealth.
Yeah.
So, cool.
I would prefer it be a little less California-like in its taxation, but...
Well, we've got a story coming up soon on that. We're doing it by the end of the show. But let's move on to New Jersey.
Let's get to some of the other state updates, right?
Yeah. Now, New Jersey is something because, of course, we had 5 states pass legal cannabis in November, pass ballot initiatives, and New Jersey was one of them. So they've got adult use. So this week, their adult use legislation, which, of course, has to be finalized and signed by the governor, imploded. It exploded. So
Did it implode or explode?
What's the difference? Yeah, I guess it imploded.
One collapses in and one blows out.
It did both. Let's just say it did both. What happened is the governor basically, as I understand it, said, this is Governor Phil Murphy, he basically said that he wanted an amendment to this legislation, which was all ready to go and ready to sign. But his fear was this. He said, we will be the first state in the union with legal cannabis, which passes a law making it legal for minors to possess cannabis. He had a problem with that. So he said, I want a quick, amendment on the bill. So a couple of legislators put what they called a cleanup bill together. It set some fines of $250, I think, for possession under the age of 21. And if you're
that sounds reasonable.
I didn't think it was unreasonable. And it also said if you were under 18, you would have to deal with, juvenile issues, like maybe have a community service or something.
All right.
So I didn't think it was unreasonable. He was all on board with this, and they were ready to sign it. At the last minute, the sponsor of the bill pulled it. They said, no, we changed our mind. We don't want this because of the justice system is just adding more confusion to it. And the governor's sticking by his guns and saying, no, I'm not going to sign something that basically makes cannabis legal for minors, which, I get where he's coming from.
Well, I back him on that.
Yeah, I do too. I
this
understand
is adult
that.
use.
Yeah, if a kid is 16 years old and he gets caught with cannabis, there should be some consequence, whether it's just community service, something to tell him or her, you're too young to be in possession of this. It's no different from alcohol.
Right, and it would have, like any other arrest underage, would have consequences down the road, and it's... it's a deterrent.
And we're not talking about putting him in jail or
No.
giving him a criminal record. We're saying that there should be some sort of penalty is what he's recommending. So
And the sponsors of the bill,
they changed their mind. I think Normal and some other advocates got involved and said, this goes against our sort of criminal justice philosophy here. You're adding more, gunk to the criminal justice process. I think that's kind of what happened.
so what's going to happen? Are they
now,
going to
nothing.
rewrite the bill?
Right now, nothing.
Right now, it's just dead in the water.
This just happened this week. So now it's dead in the water, and they're going to get together. I'm sure they'll work it out, but for now, New Jersey is still on hold, which New York is very happy about, Phil.
I know, because they don't want the competition.
That's right.
But I think in this case, I got to give it to Governor Murphy. I think he's right on this. You don't want this in the hands of minors. It's just... This plays right into the hands of the Tucker Carlsons of the world who say, "What about the children?"
Yeah, no.
What about the children? No children.
Yeah, I don't think we want kids with any
alcohol.
Yeah,
cannabis, any of that
tobacco,
stuff.
any of it. The rest of my the other thing we bring up is, speaking of legalization in November, we had 5 states, right?
Right.
Well, 3 of them. And Andrew, our buddy Andrew, made a prediction. I don't remember if it was this year's or last year's, because we played both in the show in the end of the year.
It was last year.
He made the prediction about the opponents working really hard. Well, he's got a point, because here's this great story. And we'll start with Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota. South Dakota passed both medical and adult use. What Governor Noem has done is she, through her office as governor, is facilitating legislation to get rid of the voters' choice, that the ballot initiative that was passed. And what she's done is through executive order, she's stating that the petitioners challenging the election outcome, which are a couple of police officers, are doing so upon my prior instruction. So a couple of cops have actually put a legal case together to say that this is doesn't meet the Constitution of their state. So not only is that going on in South Dakota, but we have a very similar thing happen in Mississippi and Montana, both of which passed ballot initiatives in November, and both of which now have lawsuits pending by legislators in those states who are very opposed to cannabis, and they're filing lawsuits. Let's face it, when you pass an initiative, you still have to go through the legislature, and you still have to have the governor sign it, right, for it to be a law. Of course. Right. So these folks are doing everything they can, despite what their constituents have voted for, and in huge margins in some of these cases. I mean, 60% of the voters in Montana voted for, and in Mississippi it was close to 60%, and in South Dakota it was in the same number. So we're talking about huge numbers of voters who said, yeah, we want this, and these are legislators saying we're not going to let it happen. We're going to do everything we can to slow it down, slow the process.
That's disappointing.
It is.
That's disappointing. At some point, these ballot initiatives, like you say, they're really just instructing the governor and the legislator that, yes, this is what we want.
Right.
Do it.
Yep.
And I'd be curious to see what the courts decide on this, because the courts are notorious for saying, we're not here. Well, not notorious, but the role of the courts, put it that way, is to say we're not here to decide what we think is right.
No,
we're here to decide whether this is constitutional or not, whether this passes constitutional muster. Now, maybe there's something in the constitutional that Governor Noem has found that gave her rise to say, aha, I can oppose this.
If there was, she didn't bring it up before the initiative was voted upon in November.
But
I doubt it.
But if you're putting it in the hands of the jurists, their job is not to say we're against marijuana.
Right.
Their job is to say,
does it meet the requirements set forth by the Constitution of our state?
Yeah. Is there anything in the Constitution, either the state Constitution or the federal Constitution, or current law that compels this action that you take it off? That's what their role is. And I don't know, but I wonder if there is anything that would compel this action by the governor.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and this is not uncommon in states that have passed initiatives to have the opponents of cannabis legalization drag their feet afterwards and try everything they can in the courts to slow it down and stop it.
But this is exactly what Andrew, I think, was talking about. This kind of pushback by the, the holdouts.
Exactly.
Send us your thoughts at VoteProPot.com/contact or send us an email at podcast@VoteProPot.com, and please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to be part of the show, call our message line at 240-257-2441.
Well, here's some interesting news from the federal government. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has announced that it's going to begin making more grant money available, and this is near and dear to Andrew's heart, to support the breeding, testing, and development of, quote, superior performing hemp varieties.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, of course, you remember the 2018 Farm Bill made hemp, as it's defined as less than 5.5%.
Yeah.
0.5. I think they're changing that to...
Yeah, it's up to 1. I think it's up to 1. Right.
To make that legal, well, under the USDA, they've got what's called the Supplemental Alternative Crops Grant Program. They begin, and what they're doing is funding improvements in and research in hemp cultivation in the wake of the Farm Bill. What they're saying is that the USDA plans to increase funding for this year's program from $50,000 to $125,000 per year for up to 4 years. So if you've got, in your state, if you've got a development cultivation program for up to 4 years, you're eligible. You could be eligible for this grant.
That's awesome.
Program.
Well, these hemp farmers can use all the help they can get. It's been tough on them the last year. It's been a rough one.
Well, it has, and
a lot of it's just been too many people growing it, and not enough. The market's not big enough to support how much of a crop came in.
Right. Now, the USDA announcement said, quote, that the SAC program encourages applicants to establish and work through region-based multi-state research networks to address priority national and or regional science needs of the, and it applies to canola oil as well, canola and industrial hemp industries. The SAC seeks to accelerate the development and use of superior varieties and practices adapted to regional conditions that produce benefits to growers and allied industries. So at least one federal agency, at least where hemp is concerned, is putting its money where its mouth is.
Taking initiative. Good deal. Good to hear. We need to get somebody on from the hemp industry that knows way more about it than us and see how they feel about that.
Yeah.
And if you're out there listening, call our message line and let us know and get a comp.
Get a cup.
Get a cup.
So that's more business news. What else you got business-wise?
I got some update on MedMen, who we've been covering a lot the last few months, it seems.
Oh, yes.
They've been in
MedMen.
somewhat of a struggle. So it says here...
Kind of turmoil.
Yeah, big time. I mean, cash flow-wise. This is from Marijuana Business Daily. It's out today, I think. Cannabis MSO MedMen. MSO is multi-state operation. MSO MedMen raises $10 million to aid financial turnaround effort. The way they went about this, and this is a little in the weeds, but I'm going to read it anyway.
See what you did there?
Senior debt or senior note is money owed by a company that has first claim on the company's cash flow. So in other words, there are different structures in debt. So the senior debt is the folks who get their money back first, essentially, because they're using assets up against their debt. But anyway, so what they've done is as I understand it, they've restructured this. It says the facility and other debt amendments announced at the same time will dilute the value of MedMen stock. But the amendments also reflect an effort to dig the cash-strapped Los Angeles-based operator out of a financial hole. So MedMen chair and interim CEO Tom Lynch put a positive spin on the situation, saying in a statement, quote, "We are excited to announce continued support from Gotham Green Partners as we continue to execute on our turnaround plan and look to grow our business." Sounds like lipstick on a pig to me, Phil, but...
Well, it does. And it sounds like that, this, and I'm sure MedMen is not the only MSO in the cannabis industry that's so heavily leveraged that they're just, when you get to restructuring your debt, that's what section or Chapter 11 is about, isn't it?
Well, they're not there yet. I mean,
they're not in Chapter 11, but they're restructuring their debt.
It says here under the terms of the $10 million transaction, MedMen is issuing 62.2 million stock warrants, each of which can be exercised at 16 cents per share or 5 years after they are issued. The stock currently is trading near that level. MedMen showed modest improvement in growing sales and controlling expenses in its most recent quarter that ended September 26, 2020, but the company finished the period with a negative shareholder equity of $192.3 million.
Yeah.
So we wish them well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see them get on the right track, and I think they will. I think they'll turn it around, but that's the latest on MedMen, and
okay.
Good luck.
Now we've got more news out of the federal government. I do the Weed Talk News DC report each week for Weed Talk for Pro Cannabis Media, as you know, and so I'm getting a lot of the federal news. This is one from the Census Bureau. And Census Bureau has announced it's going to start collecting marijuana tax revenue data from states where cannabis is legal. Now, Census Bureau they collect state tax data. This is all part of their quarterly economic reports that they publish in the Federal Register. Basically, they want to measure economic activity across the country, compare what's going on in different states, and highlight how each different state and the different revenue streams, how they fill state and local coffers. So they want to find out, and up to now they have not been counting cannabis sales. Now they will. Okay. So the new plan will add not just tax data from cannabis sales, but also from sports betting. So they're just expanding into the fun stuff and
prostitution
and the idea is to modernize their data collection to be more inclusive and relevant.
Well, I didn't even realize the Census Bureau kept track of all that stuff, of any kind of tax.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. You go on their website. There's a lot of things. They're just not counting noses.
I didn't know that.
They're doing a lot more than that. So, but they're providing a lot of the data that federal agencies use in their decision making to make policy. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know how interesting that is, but
no, it's interesting to me because I didn't know about it.
All right. Well, so there you go.
You and I have talked a lot in the last couple of weeks about corruption.
Yes.
You are always preaching on crony capitalism, right?
Right. And
you know how you guys out there know how we feel about that. There's a great article in Politico this week by Mona Zhang. I think that's how you pronounce it, Zhang. But it's fascinating to me. It's a long article, so I really recommend you go on Politico and check it out. It came out on a couple days after Christmas, so it's been a couple weeks. It says the name of the article is How State Marijuana Legalization Became a Boon for Corruption. And what it does is it goes through some examples. And the first one is a great one about a guy named Jaziel Correa. And he's a working class Massachusetts in the port city of Fall River, which I hadn't heard of.
Oh, Fall River,
At
sure.
23 years old, this gentleman was elected to mayor of this town, okay? And he received congratulatory calls from Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Joe Kennedy, some bigwigs. So it was like, this is an up-and-coming young Democrat in Massachusetts, right? In 2015, 4 years later, just a week before his reelection race, federal agents led him away from his home in handcuffs and charged him with attempting to extort cannabis companies of $600,000 in exchange for granting them lucrative licenses to sell weed in his impoverished city. So this goes on. There's a long story, so I'm not going to, but the point of it is, I think what the takeaway is, the system that a lot of these states are using really lends itself to corruption, especially in the states where they have, for example, limited licenses and permits. Yep. So if you say, okay, we're going to give out 10 permits, all right, and it's going to cost you $1 million or whatever the hell per permit. These politicians and other folks that sit on these boards are just ripe for corruption, because these folks who want to get in on this, there's hundreds, in some cases thousands, that want to be a part of this. They want one of these licenses because they're limited. So they're like, it's worth anything to us to get this. And there's several examples in this article of people who have been arrested, who have been mostly in the political theater, who are, overseeing these systems. And let's face it, you're some 23-year-old guy who's making, $50,000 a year, and these people approach you and go, I'll put your kid through college, buy your Mercedes, and give you $500,000 if you make sure I get one of these licenses. It's very tempting. Yeah. So I think it comes back to, how do we avoid this in the cannabis industry, a brand new industry? And, Phil, I would say that first thing we want to do is open it up.
Absolutely.
Open it up. Let people who want to get involved. A lot of these states have...
Yeah, this should not be an exclusive club.
It should not be an exclusive club only for the wealthy. This whole vertical requirement a lot of these states have, it sets up and it just asks for corruption.
Yeah, and I can't, for the life of me, understand what other purpose there is to that structure, where you divvy up the state. Like in Virginia, it's regional. Right. If you're one vertical, you get this region, another vertical, you get that region, and we talked about this when Virginia was doing this, where they were applying for these licenses, and lo and behold, the ones that are the biggest and the wealthiest and the best connected, they get first pick.
Absolutely. And these folks have so much money invested into the opportunity, whether it's, they've hired people, they've hired lawyers and consultants and put these, petitions together and put these applications for license together. By the time they've gotten to that point, they have spent ungodly amounts of money. And at that stage, they're like, what the hell? Let's just see if we can't line somebody's pocket and, get this thing through.
That's right.
Maybe someone could explain it to me. I'm not the smartest guy, around. Why do they do this? Why do the states limit the number of licenses? Why do they set up regions and only one company gets a region? What is the advantage from the point of the state? What is the advantage to that? Why not just say it's legal?
Unless you're setting it up for your own kickbacks.
I just don't understand.
Other than that, I can't understand it either.
Might be missing something.
And there's been for many, many years, and it's not just the cannabis industry. This is just this is U.S. business in microcosm. We get to see in the cannabis industry what's been going on across the business world, and people blame the corruption on the corporations. Well, they're not wrong,
right?
But at the same time, who's more corrupt?
Right.
The who's more corrupt? Is it the mobster that pays the cop to look the other way?
Or the cop that takes it.
Or the cop that takes the bribe?
Right.
I say it's the cop.
Yeah. It says here, almost all the states that legalize pot either require the approval of local officials, as in Massachusetts, or impose a statewide limit on the number of licenses chosen by the politically appointed oversight board, or both. These practices effectively put million-dollar decisions in the hands of relatively small-time political figures. The mayors and councilors of small towns and cities, along with their friends and supporters of politicians who appoint them to the board. And these strictures have given rise to the exact type of corruption that got Correia, the guy we talked about in the beginning, in trouble with federal prosecutors. They have also created a culture in which would-be cannabis entrepreneurs feel obligated to make large campaign contributions or hire politically connected lobbyists.
Right. And what's true in the cannabis industry is true in the oil industry,
exactly
in the manufacturing industry, in every industry that there is. The rules are set up so that only the biggest and most powerful and best connected get to play the game, and everybody else gets pushed out.
Yeah. I mean, we have a case. There's a case in this article, Phil, in your state of Maryland. Former Maryland State Delegate Cheryl Glenn was sentenced to 2 years in prison in July for taking bribes in exchange for introducing and voting on legislation to benefit a medical marijuana company. Mississippi governor,
and these are just the ones that are getting caught.
That's right. Mississippi Governor Mike Parsons' administration is a target of a law enforcement and legal probes at the moment for their medical cannabis program. So the long and short of it is there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a way. I mean, it's funny how we've kind of gone from, oh my God, we're going to have legal cannabis. This is going to be amazing. So it's kind of
and it is.
But now we've gotten to the point where that's happening so much, we need to look at the process. And is the process the right way to do it? I mean, I think that's the question.
Right. And it really comes down to, what you and I have always said, the government sticking its nose into the free market where it doesn't belong.
That's the bottom line.
So there's our right-wing rant for the day. Our listeners are probably getting used to us hearing that. But
I hear a lot of eyes rolling.
I can hear the eyes rolling. But folks, if we're wrong,
tell us.
Set us straight on this. If you got another idea of. But we just want to hear this because this is the kind of thing that should be talked about and debated. And if we're way off base, let us know and give and we'll put those views on and we will discuss them and air them like free people ought to.
Exactly. We're big boys. We can take it.
We can take it. Well, folks, we've come to an end of another fabulous Vote Pro podcast. We sure are glad you joined us.
Was it fabulous?
All right, no, it wasn't fabulous. It
might be a stretch.
It was adequate.
Okay, I'll go with that. It was adequate.
In fact, it was damned adequate. If you liked it, if you did enjoy it, and if you and I ask this every week, but I'm going to ask it again. Go into Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend. More important, tell a friend about it. The Apple Podcast, frankly, can go to hell if we can get enough people. we just want to share this information with as many people as we can.
We're here to change minds, right? I mean, that's really...
We're here to try to change minds and introduce different ways of thinking. And we're looking forward to... Hopefully, Andrew will be back with us in another couple of weeks. because he's kind of gives us a little bit of balance, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And tells us to shut the fuck up when when we need it. But what else, Jay?
Send us an email at podcast@votepropot.com. Like we said earlier, call our message line at 240-257-2441, and we'll send you a mug.
Yes.
After Phil closes us out here, don't forget take a listen to Pistol Hill.
Take a listen to Pistol Hill. That's right. And don't forget to check us out on social media. Go on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and do a search for, you guessed it, Vote Pro Pot.